Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. The division championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to Access to Democracy. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill Raker, your host. On this program, we're delighted to welcome Dr. Maya Iyer, who is an intern in the veterinarian department over at the Minnesota Zoo, doing her residency, similar to what goes on with a physician that serves people persons, I suppose. Is that right, Dr. Iyer?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We're really anxious to hear about some of your experiences of taking care of the animals. It's a really important job. But tell us what sparked your interest in a career in animal medicine?
Absolutely. I think like many veterinarians, I started as a kid, always loving animals. The zoo was always my favorite place to go. And then as I progressed through schooling, I turned that from a childhood passion to a professional career. And so when I was in college, I had an experience shadowing with a local dog and cat veterinarian, and that really sparked my interest and set me on a career in veterinary medicine from that point onward.
So once you made up your mind, you were decided, I'm going to be a veterinarian. What was the process that you went through from that inspiration and that determination to get you to where you are today?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, the process for veterinarians is very similar to human physicians. So we go through 4 years of veterinary school and graduate as a doctor of veterinary medicine or a DVM. And then after that point, veterinarians can decide what field they want to specialize in. So you can specialize in a specific medical specialty. So for example, surgery, cardiology, ophthalmology, just like we have for people. Or you can specialize in a specific species group. So I was always interested in zoo medicine, and so that's the specialty field that I chose. And I spent a year at a small animal specialty hospital to gain experience with medicine with dogs and cats. And now I'm the specialty intern at the Minnesota Zoo. And this is my foray into zoo medicine. And going on from here, I'll start a residency program, which is a 3-year training program in zoo medicine specifically, and come out of that prepared to be a specialist and a zoo veterinarian. So most zoo vets end up going through, after 4 years of school, at least 5 years of training afterwards.
Well, that's quite a commitment. That's quite a process to go through to be able to fulfill your childhood dream to be a veterinarian. I'll confess, I guess I really didn't know or think about the fact that in animal medicine, there all are specialties for surgery and cardiology and whatever other specialties there may be for animals, as well as being able to pick a particular species. Like you would say, I only want to take care of elephants. Would it be something like that?
I think the market is a little bit smaller for that. But one of the challenges and benefits of zoo medicine is we say we treat N-1 species. So basically everything except people that can present at a zoo. And so you get a really wide variety of animals that you can treat and learn from.
Yeah. Well, my only experience with veterinarians was when I grew up on a farm. The veterinarian, if you had to have them come out to the farm, was like a specialist in whatever animal it was that you're having a problem with. And speaking of the farm, April and May has been birthing month for the babies at the zoo. How involved were you with that, Dr. Iyer?
Yeah, so April and May have been busy months for the zoo, especially for the vet team. So the farm, one of the areas at the zoo, every year has cows, goats, sheep, pigs that will all breed and have babies in the springtime. And it has been great for visitors to come and see all the newborn babies. But there's a lot of work that goes in on the veterinary side as well, both in caring for the babies and for making sure the moms are doing well as well. So pretty much every day for the last month, we've been out at the farm taking care of animals and making sure all the babies are growing well and everyone is thriving.
Well, thank you for doing that. It's really important that the baby animals are seen to and taken well care of, as well as the mothers. Any special animal that you like to treat, to have as a patient?
Yeah, I think it's a hard question to answer because one of the beauties of this field is that every day is a little bit different. And so, especially for me, this is my first foray into zoo medicine. And so there's been a lot of really new experiences and cool species I've gotten to work with. I think one case that stands out this year is we have a tree kangaroo at the zoo who has been sick for a good portion of the year and has been in the hospital. And so it's been great to see how over a long period of time, managing a chronic case like that and watching an animal improve, that's a case that has been memorable during my time here.
Well, I'm sure you get attached to the animals that need your attention, in a special way and treat them with compassion. You mentioned a tree kangaroo. Mm-hmm. Dr. Iyer, you have to tell us what a tree kangaroo is. I don't think I've ever met one.
They're a species similar to the kangaroo that you think of, but they live in trees. They're native to Papua New Guinea, and we do have one at the zoo.
Really? Mm-hmm. Really? Well, that's a reason to go to the zoo, folks, to see this tree kangaroo. How many species of animals are under your care there?
Yeah, so it fluctuates because our collection changes over time. But last I checked, we had over 500 different species, and it comes out to over 4,000 animals that we manage at the zoo, and that includes all of the fish and invertebrates as well.
So if an animal needs attention, do they have to make an appointment to see you like I do when I went to go see my doctor?
For the most part, yes. So we have dedicated animal care staff in every department of the zoo, and all of them have appointments for either routine annual preventative exams. Most of our animals will either come up to the hospital or we'll come down to them to do routine vaccines and blood work, diagnostics. And then we also have animals who present to us on emergency that will either come up to the hospital on an urgent basis or we go out to them.
So you have labs and ORs and ICUs and everything just like in a human hospital, I suppose.
We do. So we have our animal health building has a treatment area that we do most of our diagnostic exams in for any species that's small enough to be brought up to it. And then we have a surgery suite, and then we have multiple areas to hospitalize or quarantine animals. So quarantine is a big part of what we do at the zoo because we have animals coming in and out of our collection from other places. And so usually their first stop is at animal health for quarantine before they go out and join the rest of the zoo. And then we also have a dedicated lab space, and we have our conservation team work out there as well.
So when we look at all of the components that go into providing the medical care for the animals there, how large a staff does it take to do that? How many people work in animal medicine there?
Yeah, so our animal health team consists of 4 staff veterinarians. Myself, I'm the intern veterinarian, and then we have 4 veterinary technicians who partner with us for all of our exams and care of animals. And then we have a vet assistant who is, her primary role is care for the animals in the hospital and those in quarantine. And then we also have a nutritionist on staff who's actually been on this show before.
Yes. Kelly Campen has been a guest, and she was a fascinating guest to talk about how the animals are fed, the diets that they're on. And as the doctor, you perhaps prescribe some special diets sometimes for different animals. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a really great resource to have a nutritionist on staff because so many things that we manage can be helped with nutrition, whether it's for a specific medical concern or if we're worried that an animal is losing weight, not maintaining weight. Then we chat with Kelly about changes that we can make to help provide for them better.
And so you're monitoring the health status of all 4,000 plus or minus of these animals that you have on staff there. What is there a particular kind of animal that is most challenging for someone in your role to take care of?
Yeah, I think with every animal, it comes with its own challenges. I think an example of a species we've seen a lot of cases with this year are sloths. So they're an animal that are difficult to provide for in human care, and we still have a lot to learn about what makes them tick and how to give them the best nutrition and care possible. So that's an animal that I've seen a few cases of this year. But like I said, I think every animal comes with its own challenges. So for example, for larger species, we don't have the benefit of them coming down to the hospital for diagnostics. So for example, with our reindeer or some of our horses, we have to go out and do procedures in the field to care for them. And so there's, I think, different challenges depending on what you're doing. Sure.
Yeah, I think what one would expect that. You're right. The elephant or the rhino is not going to come down to the lab. You've got to take everything out to them. In the family of apes, any fun dealing with their medicine?
Yeah, so we actually don't have any great apes at the Minnesota Zoo, but we do have some gibbons, and we do have a variety of other primates, and it's definitely interesting working with them. And I think one experience that I personally have had that has been really rewarding is we actually have a monkey, a DeBrazos monkey, who he's an older gentleman with some arthritis in his back. Mm-hmm. And so we've been treating him with pain medications for some time, but one of the great things about primates is that they're very trainable. And so we've actually trained him with him, and I work with him every few weeks to give him laser therapy along his back, which he's been very good for to help decrease some of the pain and inflammation from his arthritis.
And do they do physical therapy as well? Exercising the arms and the legs and all of that?
Yeah, our animal care staff actually are really great about training specific behaviors, whether things like that for their health or to help us better assess them. So for example, a lot of the primates are trained to open up their mouths so we can get a look at their teeth. We had one monkey who had to have one of her teeth removed. And so it was really helpful to be able to see inside her mouth without anesthetizing her so that we could monitor her tooth after it was extracted.
That's all very fascinating stuff, how that works. So we talked about some of the specialists earlier. Do you have like orthopedists and mental health kinds of things for the animals?
Yeah, so from the veterinary side of things, we are specialists in zoological medicine, which basically means we're a jack of all trades and sort of a generalist in treating a lot of conditions, but we often work with other veterinary specialists for specific medical concerns. So, for example, we work with an ophthalmologist who comes out when we have an animal with an eye problem that we need a specialist for. So, for example, he came out recently to look at one of the sea otters that had an eye issue going on. We also work with specialty hospitals where dogs and cats usually go for some specialty imaging. So like a CAT scan or an MRI. That's not something that we have on site at the zoo, but we're fortunate to work with some other facilities that have that equipment and radiologists on staff to help us get that advanced imaging for some of the cases that we have that need it.
I'm learning a lot about what it entails to take care of the animals at the zoo. I learned about the diets from Kelly, but now I'm learning about the medical side of things. And it's wonderful that we have the resources and we have the talent for people like you and Kelly who are interested in and want to take care of our animals. So that's a great thing. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
So what do you think some of the future challenges are going to be for you and others who are in animal medicine going forward?
Yeah, I think one thing that is specific to the Minnesota Zoo is that we, like I said, have facilities and a hospital to treat a number of different animals, but I think our needs are starting to outgrow the space that we have. So one of the future plans and future directions that animal health is going is to build a new hospital that has some more of that specialized equipment and space to be able to provide the best possible care that we can to these animals.
And where does the support for building a facility like that come from? Is it like funded by the state? Is that where it comes from?
The zoo is currently in the process of fundraising for that. So I can't speak to the details of where all of that comes from, but definitely it's something that both from a financial perspective we need support for, and then also in terms of staffing and management. Like I said, we have a huge number of animals and species that we're treating. And especially in these busy seasons, I think everyone's working hard to try and keep everyone healthy.
Good. I'm sure you're going to be successful at it. Let me ask the same question kind of again, but let me preamble it with climate change and the current and future impact on the health of animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a big problem. I know I would say the Minnesota Zoo is unique in that there's a lot of species that we have that are built for cold weather. So we have a lot of animals that can thrive in the cold temperatures that we see in the winter here. But that's definitely an issue that animals could have as the summers get warmer. It's harder for some of those species to thrive in the heat. And so the other aspect of zoo medicine is that it really is an opportunity to participate in conservation work as well. So not specifically climate change, but thinking about endangered species as a whole. Part of the reason that I wanted to go into this field is I feel like what I know and what I'm trained to do is medicine, clinical medicine on a specific animal. But the great thing about working at a zoo is you know that it has the potential to help a species as a whole as well.
And that's a great byproduct, I suppose, of the practice that you're in, which actually prompts another question. Are you able to learn or discover things in working with animals and treating them for their medical needs that kind of turns on a light and say, oh, I wonder over on the human side of things, is there a counterpart over there, or are we learning something new from the animals that can help the humans?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I think this is a field where you learn every day, and there's so many species and so much to know about them. And we often borrow things from either dog and cat medicine or from human medicine in terms of choosing medications and developing treatment plans. And I think the crossover goes the other way as well.
And is there research that goes on in in your environment there that sort of like what goes on in the human side of medicine?
Yeah, so a lot of zoo veterinarians are involved in research. And like I said, there's a lot that we don't know. And so it can be really valuable, especially for some of these species that we have limited information about, say, how a drug works in them or a specific condition that someone sees. So personally, as an intern, I've worked on a couple of projects just to kind of put out into the field more information about specific species.
Have you had, or do you think that you will ever have an interest and an opportunity to go out into the wild where the animals aren't in a zoo and experience that aspect?
That's something that I think most vets would love to do. I think there's a lot of great wildlife and conservation work that's done out in the field. Some of it actually we work on a smaller scale. Here in Minnesota, we have a conservation team that works with some local species, like wood turtles, for example. I had an opportunity to go out with them and do some turtle blood draws. So I think it's really great to be able to transfer some of the skills that we are able to learn on animals that we have in care at a zoo to their wild counterparts when we can.
That's fascinating. What was one of the again, I think I asked this question in one frame, but we'll try it in another one. The most difficult kind of condition to treat in an animal. And I know it would vary by species and what the circumstances were, but maybe you have an example that you could share with us.
I guess I can talk about some recent cases that we've had. So, for example, a case I saw today was a seahorse that had some issues with buoyancy, and not something that everyone thinks about.
Now a seahorse is about this big, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So it had issues where it wasn't upright and it was floating to the top. And so kind of having to extrapolate from what we know about seahorses and treatments that we can give them to remove some of the air so that their buoyancy level returns to normal. So that's just a kind of example of the breadth of things that we see. I think another example of a case that was a little unusual is we had a pufferfish a couple of months ago that had some teeth that were too long. So it ended up having to get a dental trim so that it would be able to eat normally and maintain weight. So there's a lot of different species that we work with that I think have very unique challenges just based on either their physiology or handling them, or sometimes just how little we know about them.
You know, for all of the many people who enjoy our zoo and enjoy animals, I'm sure they never think about these kinds of things. I mean, this is so enlightening to go into these special areas. So with this pufferfish, did you have to bring in an orthodontist to take care of the fish's teeth?
Nope, that's also us.
Oh, those are pretty unique situations that you described, Dr. Iyer. Knowing enough about a seahorse to figure out that its buoyancy, it needs to be corrected by taking some air out of it or something like that. Is that is that the process you have to go through to do that? Oh, we're learning so much about what goes on with animals at our zoo and the great people like Dr. Iyer who tend to them. If you think back about your ambition to get into this profession, have you experienced anything along the way that you thought, well, maybe this isn't what I want to do. I want to do something else?
I think going into this field, when I was choosing a specialty in veterinary medicine, it's kind of always waiting for something that I'd like better, and I've yet to find that. So that's kind of how I ended up here. But I think definitely one of the challenges that we have is in the number of species that we see, there's always going to be things that we don't know. And in some ways that's good. It means you get to try new things. And sometimes you have to just extrapolate from species that you know. But it does make it difficult sometimes. And there's also things where you may be able to treat it in, say, a dog or a cat, but it's much harder to manage, say, that same medical problem in an animal you can't touch every day and one that you can't routinely draw blood from. So I think those are challenges for the field that can be frustrating, but I think when we are able to manage those cases, it can be really rewarding.
Yeah, I was going to go for the word rewarding and gratifying to be able to figure out what needs to be done and to execute that procedure successfully. Dr. Iyer, are there animals out there in the world that our zoo doesn't have yet that you would like to have under your care at our zoo?
That is a great question. I think I personally, I would say my favorite animal is the elephant. A species I'm partial to, but I don't know that they would thrive in Minnesota weather.
You don't think this is a climate that the Asian or African elephant would feel comfortable in, huh?
Probably not.
You know, I'll tell you, the elephant is my favorite as well. So tell us why you prefer elephants, why they're top of your list, or in the list up at the top.
Yeah, I'd say the list changes sometimes, but I've always loved them since I was a kid. I grew up in Houston, which had the zoo there had a big elephant herd that they're very charismatic animals and very intelligent and just really unique as a species. But I think as I get further into this field, I feel like I've discovered a lot of species that I just didn't even know existed before.
Oh, give us one example.
I had some family recently visit and they saw the takin that we have at the zoo, which is a species that they didn't know existed before. It's a large goat-like creature that's native to East Asia, and we have one out on habitat now.
And what's the name of this animal again?
A takin.
A takin. Mm-hmm. And you say it looks like a goat.
Very large goat.
A very large goat. Okay, well, that's another reason to go out to our zoo to see that animal as well. So, Dr. Iyer, as we wrap up the final minute or so of our program today, this has been a fascinating discussion. Do you have any thoughts or comments that you'd like to leave with our viewers?
Thank you so much for having me. I think that the big takeaway is that we all have a part to play in conserving some of the wonderful species that I have the pleasure of taking care of every day. And the Minnesota Zoo is a great place to come and see a lot of those and see what some of these species that we can really help in the wild are like.
Well, Dr. Iyer, you are just a fascinating guest. It's been great to have you and to listen to you tell about your stories and your experiences as being in the animal medicine profession. We're so glad you chose that profession. And as you continue to complete your training and your education, we wish you the best and success in every step of the way. Our guest has been Dr. Maya Iyer, who is an intern veterinarian medicine at the Minnesota Zoo. Thank you for watching Access to Democracy.